Okay, we are about to get started here. Welcome back to our 5th Chamber City County Connects You teleconference. My name is Tara Doyle-Enneking. I'm the President and CEO of the Puyallup-Sumner Chamber of Commerce. My co-facilitator today is Lori Waltier, our Director of Communications, that will facilitate the Q&A portion of our program. We had some big news today with the SBA issuing a lapse in appropriations notice for disaster funding. Currently, the SBA is unable to accept new applications at this time for the Paycheck Protection Program or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan based on available appropriations funding. Secretary Mnuchin and U.S. Small Business Administrator Jovita Carranza issued a request urging Congress to appropriate additional funds for these programs. While we wait to see what happens with that, other funding options have come available. As we learn to pivot in times where things are rapidly changing, we are fortunate to have today with us U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Executive Director for the Northwest Regional U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Chris Eyler, here as one of our lineup added of panelists today to speak to this latest development and the $5,000 grants potentially available to you. So I haven't necessarily seen him log on. He said he may be jumping over from another call, so we will come to him at some point, but I certainly thought in light of the sort of bad news from SBA that Chris Eyler could provide us some good news with those potential grants. So that is a slight change in our lineup. This week, we are thrilled to roll out our new Advisors Corner that will reside on our website and will be added to our Chamber Chatter communications. The Advisors Corner will be a directory of professionals that you can turn to for the myriad of issues related to the current pandemic. On today's teleconference, we'll have panelists from our Advisors Corner, each of whom will share specific advice within their respective area of expertise. John Rodenberg is a certified business advisor with Washington State University Small Business Development Center. He will talk about the free and helpful services the SBDC is offering in conjunction with the SBA offerings. Sue Dreier is the Chief Executive Officer of Pierce Transit and will provide a brief on bus service levels and ridership, along with safety initiatives they have taken, and will provide projections for future bus service levels in Pierce County. Jerome is a Senior Vice President at Kidder Mathews and will talk about some of the creative ways that tenants and landlords are working together at this time. And we have Kierra Phifer, the Local Government Affairs and Public Policy Manager for Puget Sound Energy, that will speak to the concessions their company has made to accommodate the hardship of many of their consumers at this time. Our format will be as follows. Each of our speakers will provide an update, and then we will open it up to questions from our listeners. Please use the chat function through Zoom for your questions or email admin@puyallupsumnerchamber.com. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. Your participation during the Q&A is a valuable component of the program. It's important to mention that on each call we have state representatives, members of county and city council, and they are also on standby for your questions. We appreciate them tuning in as we are all in this together, and it's important for them to be a part of the dialogue. So let's get started. John Rodenberg. Oh boy, we've got more names now. I got to find you. Looks like you've already unmuted yourself. Perfect. John, thank you so much for being here. Go ahead and move forward with your presentation.
Yeah, I'm going to give some information and an update on the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center. 2 years ago, we made the decision to open a Puyallup office, April of 2018. We had maintained the Tacoma office for 14 years, and we kept that office open until January 1st of this year. So the SBDC office in Pierce County is at 400 East Pioneer, Suite 103. And I want to explain what the SBDC does best. And I want to say that let's not leave here confused that the SBDC is any part of the SBA. The SBA is a federal agency that guarantees loans and runs loan programs. The SBDC is a no-cost, confidential business advising service to any legal business, for-profit business in Washington. I do work with clients all over the state, but 90% of them are going to be Pierce County. People like to travel to a close location, and up until this point in time, clients really enjoy coming into an office and working one-on-one. They can put papers on the table, they can talk about what they're seeing. We get something going, and I have an average of 120 clients a year. So SBDC, Small Business Development Center, no cost confidential business advising by appointment. What we do is assist people through the 5 functional areas of a business. Organization and legal. We are not attorneys. We don't try to do any attorney type work. If someone needs an attorney, we'll recommend 3. And we have a rotating list of attorneys we recommend. If someone needs an accountant and insurance, we'll recommend 3. So we provide organizational startup information on entities and some of the legal concepts. Secondly, we can provide operational analysis. We can help you understand your business by being an outside set of eyes. Then we provide financial assistance, which is a very wide area. Financial is everything from how do you invoice, how do you collect, how do people make payment, how do you do your bookkeeping, how do you pay your expenses, what are the results of your business after 1 month or 1 year, as indicated by a profit and loss statement. Financial is a really big area, and people have a lot of questions in that area. Marketing, we're very good at market research. We have a research group that can dive into things like IBIS reports. They can perform secondary research, even a bit of primary research. And our last area of advising is human resources, hiring, job descriptions, workflow, even a bit about employee records and discipline. And if we come up short, we know some good human resource attorneys for either employees or employers. So those are the 5 functional areas. What that really means to most of our clients is that we help them write a business plan. It's their business plan. They should use that to plan or grow their business, and they'll most likely need a business plan to support a financial funding application. Therefore, we also help people through the process of getting funding, either equity or debt. We know those 2 sides of the markets very well. For about the past 5 years, we've been helping a lot of people buy or sell a business. We are not business brokers, but we help people through the process of thinking about selling. How should I find customers for my business? What should the price be? How am I going to get paid for it? And how's this whole process going to go, whether I'm a buyer or seller of a business? We have many avenues for market research to assist clients in identifying target markets, and then moving on to the demographics, then moving on to what an average consumer spends on the product or service you're trying to sell. Those are all part of the market analysis. We spend a lot of time analyzing financial statements that employees bring in. We don't do the bookkeeping, but if somebody brings in a whole box of receipts and invoices, I'll get them an order. I'll help them run a 1-month P&L. They'll understand what a P&L is, and they can do it by hand. They can get QuickBooks. They can hire an accountant. We understand how to get information when we don't have it in Pierce County. I can tap into any one of my 28 colleagues. So now you know there's 28 SBDC offices in the state. By and large, we're employees of Washington State University. And the state likes the SBDC program because if a business grows, sales tax and B&O tax revenue grows, and secondly, employment grows. So small business is good for state, local, municipal economies. So the welcome mat is out. Most of my clients come from a really good website. If you put in Tacoma Small Business or Puyallup Small Business, the SBDC will come up. We have a really good website. We personally set our own appointments by phone or email. We get back to people very quickly. Secondly, I get a lot of referrals from lending institutions. On the debt side, of course, it's the banks and credit unions. On the equity side, I understand and attend angel network meetings, Caritsu Forum type meetings, and I can tell people what it's like to ask for equity funding. Keep in mind though, I don't tell clients that we have a bank vault at the SBDC office. We do not make loans, nor does the SBA. Okay, we cleared that up. I also get a lot of referrals from economic development entities. City of Tacoma and Puyallup both have those personnel, The county has it, the state has them. The Port of Tacoma has an economic development person. The EDB in Tacoma has one, so we get a lot of referrals from them. And then, by and large, since I've had clients for 10 to 15 years, a lot of them will refer one of their colleague businesses, and somebody will call me up. So I really want to stress the point that we're one-on-one, we're hands-on. We like referrals from clients or any source, and we get back to people. If someone refers a potential client to me, it's a simple half-page form to become a client of SBDC, and they will get a first meeting with me. And it's everything from a startup all the way to someone who's got a mature business and might be wanting to talk about expanding their business or selling it. So that's kind of where I wanted to tell you about what SBDC is and how we do it. The part that I won't dwell on real heavily, except to say that from March 30th and then April 3rd, when those two loan programs came online, I got about 40 inquiries a week and ended up with about 35 to 40 Zoom sessions that were a half hour each with people wanting to learn the process of applying for those loans. But as of 7 a.m. this morning, I sent Tara a short paragraph that said they were being suspended. I suspect only one of them will get renewed, and that being the PPP type. I don't think the SBA direct loan thing will have any more funds. But I think the PPP and the CARES Act will, through the lenders of banks and credit unions. So I hope I've given you something to think about and act on. And I'll be part of the question and answer that takes place later.
Terrific. I can't echo enough the tremendous asset we have right in our backyard with his office in downtown Puyallup. There's just a handful of them, like he said, in the state. And so we are so fortunate to have it. And once we get on the other side of all of this, you can rest assured we'll be bringing John in for some lunch and learns and some opportunities to really let him help you in your business. It's just, again, just too incredible of an asset to pass up. So thank you, John, for being here. We do have Chris Eyler from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that's able to log on. I know he's bouncing between teleconferences, so I think we're going to go ahead and move to him right now with an update. So Chris, thank you so much for so last minute joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. Just a couple quick updates. First, as a lot of you know, chambers of commerce are not currently eligible to access the Paycheck Protection Program loans under the CARES Act because they are 501c6 organizations. We are renewing our push to get that change so that chambers like the Puyallup-Sumner Chamber can access these loans. So we are this afternoon we rolled out a sign-on letter for chambers of commerce to sign on to. The last letter we did had over 1,400 chambers of commerce sign on. We expect this letter to be just as big, if not bigger, because we're going to leave it open for a little bit longer to get as many nonprofits that currently cannot access PPP loans onto the letter and demonstrate to Congress that the program needs to be opened up to include all nonprofits. So I know that Tara probably already has the letter in her inbox.
Absolutely.
The other issue related to the PPP is I'm sure you all saw in the news today that the program has exhausted the $349 billion in funding that Congress appropriated in the CARES Act. This is unfortunate. We are just as frustrated about this as everyone. The good thing I can tell you is that there is bipartisan support to add more funding, but right now Congress is being Congress, and they're in a bit of a standoff over what additional funding should be included in this bill. We are fairly confident that they will move fairly quickly to add at least $200 to $251 billion more into the PPP program so that it can continue providing loans. Right now, the question is just, it's a matter of when and how soon they do that. But we fully expect that they will get around to doing this shortly. The other thing I want to flag for you all is that while the main focus for the U.S. Chamber is making sure the federal government does its job, funds these programs, and provides as many resources as possible to businesses, a number of our corporate members have been coming to us wanting to do something more to help fill in some of the gaps. And we've had some funding made available for a small grant program that we're calling the Save Small Business Fund. This is a grant program that will provide grants of $5,000 to small businesses with 3 employees up to 20 employees that have been impacted negatively by the COVID-19 crisis, and that are in communities that are the most economically vulnerable communities. We have had to limit these grants we've had to narrow the scope of the grants to the most economically vulnerable communities, in part because there's only a limited amount of funding available for this grant. As well as there are some restrictions placed on providing charitable contributions to for-profit businesses. So for the purposes of this grant, economically vulnerable communities are being defined as the bottom 80% of the most economically distressed zip codes. We have a website set up for this called savesmallbusiness.com. On the website, there is a tool where you can put in your zip code and you can see if your business would qualify to apply for this grant. The application to apply for the grant will go live on April 20th at noon Pacific time. You can also go onto our web, that savesmallbusiness.com website, and put your email address in to get a reminder for when the application is live. Again, we only have a limited amount of funding available for these grants, and we have to narrow the scope to focus on the most needy communities. But as I said, our focus is getting the federal government to provide the resources necessary for the loan programs that are going to benefit the most businesses. But we do have a number of our corporate members and philanthropic partners that really want to do more to help fill in the gaps where we are able to do that. So we have this grant funding available, and we will be issuing $5,000 grants for as long as that funding is available.
That's great news. I know I was on a call earlier with Meredith Neal, the Economic Development Manager at Puyallup, who we'll hear from a little later today. She did go through the process to see what zip codes in Puyallup are listed or considered economically vulnerable. And so the 98371 downtown corridor, also I think right up at South Hill Mall area, 98373, I believe. She'll certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess I just wish you well, Chris Eyler. You're going to have a lot of applicants coming through. So technically, I hope on that side of it, you can handle it. But
I hope so. But I would rather get the funding in the Paycheck Protection Program so that, that's going to help more businesses and it's going to help businesses everywhere. But
absolutely,
as I said, we want to fill in the gaps where we can. So.
Well, bless you for doing so, and we do appreciate all the work. You definitely put out the best information, and we're so proud to put our stamp on it anytime we push it out to our community. We hear from members all the time that the information is just wonderful, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on down to our panelists. We have Sue Dreier, the CEO for Pierce Transit. Sue, I may need to put my glasses on to unmute you.
I think I'm unmuted, right?
Right on, you are.
Hello, thank you for having me. As you heard, Sue Dreier from Pierce Transit, and it has been an interesting time for all of us. And at Pierce Transit, we became an essential service 6 weeks ago very quickly and had to retool things very quickly to ensure the safety of our employees and the folks still needing to use the bus, which we really classify at this point as everybody who's on the bus is taking essential trips. And we put out many initiatives that explains that and how we expect people to use our system right now. But I really want to talk about a couple of the things that we did to really ensure safety, because this virus can travel so quickly between people. And we do have a system that has a lot of high touch areas of it. So we always clean our buses every night. That's still being done, but we also hired some help of a small business to help us disinfect our buses while they're in the transit centers. So our buses are being disinfected about every 2 hours throughout the day. And we are limiting the riders on the buses right now to 15 per coach. Everybody is coming in the bus through the back door. We suspended fares, which of course is a loss of income, and Pierce Transit is basically funded with sales tax. About 85% of our revenue is sales tax, and then the rest of our revenue is operating the Sound Transit buses. So we closed the front doors to keep the operator, the bus driver, isolated in the front to help keep their exposure down. We have moved all of our buses. If you see bigger buses, I know the Puyallup connector bus has now turned to a 40-foot bus instead of a 30-foot bus. That's just to ensure more areas for social distancing. We blocked off seats with signs. So every other row, we only want one person sitting. And then we also suspended our fares and began doing a little interview process for our shuttle customers. That's our paratransit, those that cannot use the regular bus system. So lots of things really quick just to ensure that our buses were safe as can be for not only our employees, but those that are utilizing the service still, and people still are. So our ridership is down about 65%. However, we still are providing 7,000 to 8,000 trips a day. So those are folks that need to either get to work at the grocery store, CNAs, healthcare workers, and those needing to go to the grocery store. So it's been interesting to see just the value that transit brings to everyone to really do these essential services that we all need. A lot of people just can't get in their car and go there. So to ensure the safety of our operators, we provided everybody with gloves and a mask. You know, masks aren't easy to come by these days. So we had some, enough to give everyone one, and our supervisors. But what we were able to do is we have an upholstery shop. So in our maintenance garage, we maintain the seats on all of our buses. So our upholstery people, James, did you just have on your homemade mask? This is one of my employees. These are some of the masks that our upholstery shop has made. They have made well over 240 of those. So we have issued 2 of those to everybody so they can be washed. We also had some folks within the agency that worked at creating volunteer for they do not uniforms, costumes for one of the theaters, and they've made masks. So it's really been you know, when we talk about we're all in this together, we've really seen that at Pierce Transit and how everybody has stepped up. You know, we had to close our administrative offices and send most people home, but we still have a service that we're running. And that goes out every day. So our administrative employees are working from home. But everybody else is there. You know, I go into my office most every week to say hello to my operators and see how things are going. And I will say, for the most part, people are really managing the situation well, with a very good positive attitude that we are here to help serve the public and be good stewards of the public funds that are entrusted to us. So like I said, our ridership is down about 70%. We also, Pierce Transit and my employees operate those express buses for Sound Transit. Their ridership is down about 80%, and 80 to 85%, depending on the area that they're running in. So we both had to cut back our service. So right now, we are running on what we call a enhanced Sunday service. So if you looked at our schedule, it would be when buses run on Sundays. However, we know that that isn't adequate service for the weekday riders. So for our regular trunk lines, such as the 1, 3, 4, those still run the regular hours, and they still have the span that they had before. And because we limited those buses to 15 customers, we have what we call, this is kind of transit talk, ghost buses. So they're just a bus that is going right behind the other bus that once the, like the number 1, which is our busiest route, and typically we move 6,000 people a day on that route. When that becomes, that's our biggest route, most ridership. When that becomes with 15 riders, then that second bus will start picking up. We've been able to keep that level of service going. We do have about 1/3 of our staff that is in that, that is home. Most of them are in that vulnerable category of people that this virus can be very detrimental to. And let's see, so yes, we're still operating all of our services and the Sound Transit work as well to go to the airport or up to Seattle. But we also were able to shift some resources over to a special service that we just kicked off last Friday that I want to share. And this is a service that is just for essential workers. So because not all of our buses span like they used to, what it means is we're not out there until 10 o'clock at night like we used to be. And some, such as grocery workers or healthcare workers, don't get off until then. All people have to do is call our regular line, 581-8000 line, and we will arrange a trip for you on one of our paratransit vehicles, because that service is down about 2/3. So what we will do is we have a little interview process to ensure that that you are an essential worker, and we'll be happy to pick you up at your house, take you to work, and then get you back home afterwards. Those are for those that are within our service boundary and the service has been cut to that area, because like I said, we're not running the robust service that we were. We're on a Sunday service. With that being said, that's a great tool to make sure people are getting to work. And then we're really looking at right now what our service will look like in the future. And as I said, in the beginning, 82% of our funding is sales tax. And with not a lot of collection of sales tax right now, and we really won't even know what the effect will be on our service level and our revenue until around June. So we know that our service levels may be lower, and we are looking at that right now and how we react to it. So we had some projects that we're fixing up transit centers and a few other projects that have all been put on hold. We have stopped all of our capital projects except our bus rapid transits project, which is in a feasibility study. That is under contract. And that will continue to move forward because it is under contract. So we are reducing our cost in capital. We started furloughing employees this week. That begins Monday. But we'll continue to provide that service that's out there. So, my real ask is, now that we are in this situation, is for businesses in our area, such as South Hill, really what kind of service can we provide in 2021? Because we know that we're going to have to reimagine how we do business because of this, what is upon us. And so that is my ask really for everybody, and that I've been kind of getting out there to all businesses, is that if you think that Pierce Transit wasn't providing the service that you really thought would be better for your business, please let us know now. We really want to prioritize a service package that meets the needs of the most people in Pierce County. And I know I'm talking to the Puyallup-Sumner Chamber, and we don't, for those that you don't know, we don't have service in Sumner. That isn't because Pierce Transit doesn't want to offer service in Sumner. Sumner was taken out of it's called PTBA, Public Transportation Benefit Area, during the recession because they lost service. There is a process to get back into our service area. I'd be happy to share that with anyone that would like to go through that process. But quite frankly, it takes a vote of the people to come back in, because it is taxation, and we collect sales tax at 0.06. So I think I'll leave it there, let somebody else have a little time, and like I said, be happy to really hear what you need from Pierce Transit, and thanks for keeping everything going during this time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your support too. You've been key sponsors to us during this hard time. We really appreciate it, and thanks for mentioning the Sumner bit.
Yeah.
And your team has done a great job. They are coming out constantly asking community their feedback. So hopefully that will ramp up more as we get to gather more going forward.
Great.
Right. Thank you, Sue. Next, we have Jerome O'Leary. Many of you know Jerome. He is a senior vice president with Kierra Mathews. He is also on our board of directors. But truly, he's just such a great advocate for business and for Puyallup and Sumner. So nice to have you, Jerome, with this hat on today, talking about some of the creative ways you're seeing people work together, like landlords and tenants and such. So welcome, Jerome.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you for the opportunity. And hopefully there's some folks listening that we might be able to give some ideas to. It's a tough time for everybody, landlords and tenants, building owners, developers. And we're fortunate that we work pretty much across the board with all of them. Kidder's a fairly large company. We've got 22 offices in 5 states. about 900 team members, and we have all sectors of, we consider ourselves a full service real estate firm. So we cover all sectors of real estate, from property management to valuation or appraisal, to brokerage. And so that gives us a real broad base to draw some information from. And we, like this call, we have weekly calls for the various sectors, whether it's industrial, office, multifamily, retail. We have those calls and we trade information as to what we're seeing going on in the various markets. And we've then passed that information on to our clients. And that's the kind of thing that I'd like to be able to offer to anybody on the call today, or anybody that watches this in the future through the recording, that please do take a moment, give me a call. We could come up with some creative ways possibly to either get some rent relief or some mortgage relief, depending on where you are and what your needs are. We anticipate different sectors coming out of this on the other side at various rates. And when I say rates, I mean time schedules. Some of the sectors that have been hit the hardest are the gymnasiums, the casual dining restaurants, the theaters, places where people congregate in high density. And our anticipation is they're going to come out of it a little bit slower than some of the other essential need type operators, which would be more like maybe hair salons, nail salons, that sort of thing. Across the board, we feel that there's going to be protocols in place that are different from what we experienced going into this. And those protocols will include distancing, masking, gloves, a variety of different separation methods. And all of those come with expense in one form or another, whether it's through the limited number of people you can service at one time, or whether it's through the cost of PPE equipment. Either way, there's going to be additional costs and impact to revenue during this time. And then there's a domino effect associated with that. So again, we're here to help, and whether you're an existing client or not, that doesn't matter. Because of my affiliation with the Chamber, we certainly want to offer any advice we can to help everybody through this as we all go through it together, as Tara said at the start of this.
Great. Thank you, Jerome. All right, Kierra, who is our local government affairs and public policy manager for Puget Sound Energy, will speak more about the good work Puget Sound Energy is doing. Kierra.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me on this call today. I'm really excited to share some of the work that PSE is doing throughout our 10-county service territory to help support our customers at this time. We are going on week 6 of work from home. Oh, sorry, my cat just jumped on the table. Sorry. Okay. We're going on week 6 of working from home, and PSE was a very early adopter of the work from home policy, which was great to be a part of a company that had leadership in prioritizing the safety of its employees. Around March 12th, PSE announced that we would not be doing disconnects for our customers due to non-payment, and that we would also not be accruing late fees for our customers. At that time, we encouraged our customers to sign up for any of the low-income assistance programs that we already had in place. They're traditionally underutilized programs. They're called LIHEAP and PSE Help. And because they're underutilized and they're a resource that's available to our customers, we wanted to encourage our customers to sign up for these programs. And then earlier this week, I'm excited to announce that PSE received approval from the Washington State Utility and Transportation Commission to open up some of our income assistance programs. And so we rolled out a program called the Crisis Affected Community Assistance Program, or CACAP, I guess. And what that program is it is a utility bill assistance program. It's a block grant of up to $1,000. It's a credit on your bill. And for those who have been affected by the COVID-19 crisis. And so in order to be eligible for that, you have to meet the income requirements, which are 250% of the poverty line. So it's significantly more than any of our other income assistance programs. And then you also have to be able to demonstrate via pay stub or unemployment that you have been affected by the COVID-19 crisis. You can apply for this program online through your account, or you can give us a call and we will help you apply for this program over the phone. The phone number is 1-888-225-5773. And one of our customer service agents will help walk you through the requirements of the program and help determine your eligibility and help you apply. In addition, if you just want more information on some of the resources that we are encouraging our customers to look at this time, you can also go to www.pse.com/COVID help, and it'll give you kind of a list of all the programs that we have, the LIHEAP, the HELP, and then the CACAP program, which is new. In addition, if you are currently on LIHEAP or you currently receive assistance through HELP, you can also apply for the new program. So they're not mutually exclusive. You can apply for any or all of them as well. And then one other measure that the PSE Foundation is taking to support our communities during this time is trying to get some funding out into our communities to help support a lot of our nonprofits. And a few examples of that is we recently distributed $130,000 to local food banks throughout our 10 county service territory, and then also a few additional counties that we have infrastructure projects in. And then we also gave out $270,000 to different United Ways in Washington State. 40,000 of that ended up here in Pierce County. And then we also gave out $200,000 to the Washington Food Fund, which is a statewide effort to help support food security during this time. I think as everybody knows on this call, it's anticipated that the need for food at this time is going to be extremely high. And so anything that we can do as a company to help support that need is something that, you know, we want to be doing. At the end of the day, PSE, we know that we are an essential service and we are committed to ensuring that no customer goes without hot water, electricity, or heat. And so we are doing everything that we can to keep that happening for all of our customers. And we realize that we are a community partner and that we're here to help support the work that is being done in our communities. So, thank you.
Thank you for all of that. I wasn't aware of that latest program. I believe we're doing a good job tracking through chat what some of those resources with their phone number and email or website information. So if anyone hadn't noticed, I can draw your attention to that. So thank you very much, Kierra, and also to Puget Sound Energy, another great partner that, you know, has agreed to sponsor us earlier for events happening later, just to kind of help us as a chamber bridge the gap of our insufficient funds at this time. So thank you. All right, I have a couple of folks that I am aware are on the line and I know have updates. There is also a statement I'd like to read from Kelly Chambers, our 25th District House Representative, is on all of these calls typically, but had a conflict today, but also had kind of an important call to action that I think was worthy of reading. So I'm just gonna read that letter really quickly. She's apologizing for not being on the conference call today. She misses all of her chamber friends. She had two important calls today, one with the House Republican caucus and the other with the governor's office. There have been several groups, auto dealers, contractors, who have made their appeals to the governor's office asking for approval to reopen. And there has not yet been an announcement or a timeline provided to reopen businesses. The Department of Commerce said that the roadmap to reopen is under construction. As a caucus, we are compiling a list of businesses that are looking to reopen that have the ability to do so in a way that promotes the health and safety of their employees and customers. These businesses are the experts in their field and can best articulate the steps that are able to implement that would allow them to resume conducting business. We value life and livelihood and are committed to protecting both. She said that you can email her at kelly.chambers@ledge.wa.gov. So it's a little frustrating. We know that our governor, along with the governors of California and Oregon, are meeting to work up a reopen plan. But that being said, I know the Department of Commerce executive director, hasn't been contacted necessarily. And so there's just, again, a real important business component that may or may not be addressed during this time when it is us, the business community, that's impacted. So, as Representative Chambers mentioned, it's kind of up to us to rally some of our own efforts here to really maybe provide that roadmap that makes the most sense. So your business best. If you feel you are one of those businesses that should be considered to reopen, then you do have a group that's committed to helping you message that. So please do so through your House Representative, Kelly Chambers. I think that's a great thing to jump on right now, and I'd like to see where this effort leads us. So I wanted to first mention that. We also have our good friend at Pierce County Economic Development, Betty Capistani. We see you on video today. So any updates you have for us, Betty? I can unmute you if, there we go, you're unmuted. Can you hear her? I can't hear you right now.
Can you hear me now?
We can, yes.
Okay, well, it's good to see everyone. And Chris, thank you for the U.S. Chamber. You guys are doing great stuff, and it's good information. And we also appreciate the extra grant effort. For Pierce County, we still have some funds available for people in unincorporated Pierce County. We've given out about $500,000 of grants to small businesses. So there's still opportunities there. I think I would encourage all of you, because we're hearing this pent-up demand wanting to reopen. So contacting our legislators of how that works, and also contacting our federal government to get more resources. We've had a lot of disappointed businesses that they weren't able to get their PPPs and also their idle loans. So there's a lot of people that need that to be able to make everything work.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for being with us, as always, Betty. I also know that we have County Councilwoman Cynthia Jacobson. I know there was a city council meeting. I know Meredith Neal is also prepared to talk on city, so I don't know either one of you. Did you have anything to say right at this time?
Thanks, Tara. Yeah, City Council, City of Puyallup. So Cindy Jacobson. So yeah, we did pass last time, and Meredith helped us craft this letter asking for our car dealerships to be open and for sale to folks who were non-essential, still in a safe way, and also advocating for other businesses who could show that they were going to operate safely to be reopened. So that was kind of a win. We passed that 4-3, and we are sending that letter to Governor Inslee. So that's the big news. We're not really allowed to do anything right now because of the quarantine order. We're not allowed to do anything in our online meetings that is that significant. So we're sort of at a standstill. Our sales tax revenues are going to be dramatically affected, just like everyone else's. And that's all it is. All I have for Puyallup. I'm sure Meredith has more.
Thank you very much. Meredith Neal, the Economic Development Manager for Puyallup.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Can.
Okay, great. So yeah, as Councilmember Jacobson mentioned, we approved that letter that has been sent to Governor Inslee, and it requests and encourages some changes to allow flexibility for car dealerships and for other businesses, allowing them to serve customers as long as they can follow social distancing and other public health and safety guidelines. We've also launched a new website called choosepuyallup.com, which is all about helping businesses thrive here, today, and in the future. So it includes food takeout and delivery lists, information for businesses on coping with COVID-19, marketing resources, a relief checklist if people are feeling kind of overwhelmed, for where they should be looking first, who they should be talking to, and helpful tips there. And it also includes financial resources for individuals, so displaced workers, say like nannies and home care individuals, other types of professions, artists, for example, who might be out of work. Along with that, we also have a 45-second video that we're going to be launching tomorrow that will be on the Choose Puyallup website and will be shareable on social media and we will be sharing it. We'd love for you guys to share it. And it showcases 4 different ways to support local businesses right now. So we're calling it the 4-Way Challenge, and we're hoping people will take it up. And we have some, both the video and some graphics that go along with it that we're going to be deploying and asking other businesses and groups like the Chamber to help us with, get them out there, help people figure out how they can support businesses right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Meredith. I am quickly trying to scroll through names. I'm not 100% sure. Do we have any representation from Sumner on the phone today with an update? Hearing silence, I will move on. Aaron Hellenberg is with Senator Zeiger's office. Do you want to say a quick couple words there? I know we chatted right at the beginning.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Sure can.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks for this couple minutes, or I guess not a couple minutes, this will be very brief. I know Senator Zeiger would echo the letter that you read from Representative Chambers, and we're, he and I are kind of tag teaming people who are coming to our office with questions about unemployment. Well, most of the stuff's about unemployment, those who have been temporarily laid off here. So if you guys know of anybody that has any questions or needs help getting access to that or any other resources, I'll go ahead and leave Senator Zeiger's email address as well as mine and my cell phone number in the chat there, so you can pass it on to anyone you know of. But if there are any questions you know of, send them our way. But we're also still open for normal business. If you have questions about laws or bills or anything in the past, feel free to shoot us a message, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Thank you. I know you guys have been attentive with these teleconferences. We so appreciate you tuning in. We've got another person, a chamber member, Hannah Thomas, on the line. She just participated on a conference call with Washington Policy Center, JT Wilcox and Bruce Dammeier. They specifically spoke to the advocacy happening around construction and automotive industry. So she's offered to maybe just share a quick, summary of that. So I would appreciate that. Hannah, go right ahead.
Hey, Tara, and hello, everybody else. Yeah, so Brooke and I were just on that call, and they had indicated that part of the reason why that construction and automotive are getting the attention is because that they are advocating so strongly and that they are leveraging their professional organizations. So JT said, and I'm actually going to pull the screen over here so you guys don't see the slide in my head, that JT specifically repeatedly encouraged using your professional organizations. And he alluded to, he didn't directly come out, but he alluded to the Chamber. And he said those organizations that utilize your professional associations are the businesses that are going to survive. So he said now more than ever is the time that you need to come together. But he said you need to have a collective voice, because he said, unfortunately, and he seemed, he was sober. We'll just leave it at that. He was very, very sober. And he said, so individuals are perhaps not going to be as heard as the collective voice. And so he said, I can tell you that the people that are being heard are the professional associations, and they are being able to craft messages that are being taken seriously, being taken under advisement and serious consideration. So I thought that was worth sharing with this group, particularly since it's on a chamber call. So I'm a member of this, obviously, NFIB, and I also, of course, have my healthcare associations. Brooke may also be able to add to that since we were both on the call, but I thought it was timely and also worth sharing.
It absolutely was. Thank you, Hannah. Yeah, advocacy is a big part of what the Chamber does. We meet with our Government Affairs Committee to kind of determine what issues we should be jumping on. There's a lot of letters we've signed on with other agencies and are happy to take on, any advocacy along with your association to kind of add a little weight. So I really appreciate you speaking to that, Hannah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think that might be it for officials that are on the phone that have a comment to make. If I'm missing anyone, speak up. Otherwise, I think we're going to go ahead and kick it over to Lori Waltier, our Director of Communications, for some Q&A. Also, I'll just really quickly, the Q&A, I wanted to bring on County Councilwoman Jacobson, Meredith Neal, the other folks that are on the line. Questions can be directed to them as well, Betty Capistani. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Tara. Hi, everyone. I don't have any messages that have come in to me on this call. So, you know, I was gonna kick something off myself. I was imagining there would be plenty of questions for John related to small business advising. I guess, you know, I would ask John, what would your advice be for folks who got their paperwork in for the PPP program, like how long it will take? And then for those folks who haven't gotten it in, maybe they don't have a banking relationship, if you have any advice for them, if you would address either of those subjects. I don't know if maybe he isn't on the call. I can jump to someone else if I need to.
I'm trying to unmute him. I don't know. I know he knew to hang around, but
that's okay. Hey, Jerome, how about you? I know that I've heard landlords express issues and difficulties collecting their rents. And I've also heard tenants struggling to pay their rents. I mean, I know you kind of touched on it, but what specific advice could you give aside from a one-on-one consultation?
Well, it's a great question, Lori, and I was waiting more for the Q&A to go through this if specific tenants had questions or landlords. There's a domino effect to this, and everyone is impacted. So for the tenant that isn't generating income and can't pay rent, it affects the landlord who has a mortgage and can't pay the mortgage. And it even affects the lender who has a responsibility of keeping his lending ratios in line. So we are seeing across the board requests for rent relief or rent reduction or some modification to that. And what we're advising at this time is that communication is key. You can't over communicate at a time like this. Get in front of your landlords, treat them like your partners. And if you're a landlord, get in front of your tenants and inquire about how they're doing. What are they seeing in their business? What is their downturn? Some of the downturns are obvious when you look at theaters, athletic clubs, that sort of thing. I mean, they went from generating income to absolutely zero. The creative ways that casual dining restaurants are trying to survive generate some income, but we don't know exactly where that is. We're hearing up and down the West Coast anywhere from a 70% reduction in income to 50%, 40% on the high side. So the key that I would say for a small tenant, well, for any tenant, whether they're a small tenant, a regional tenant, or a national tenant, would be to communicate well, be willing to share your financial information, have it readily available, because the landlord's going to want to know that you are doing everything you can, not just asking for rent relief, but you're also doing everything you can as it relates to furloughing non-essential employees, that you're doing some things to reduce your general overhead. If you're not having people coming into your facility, are there areas where you can cut back? If you, for instance, if you were a sports bar, you know, have you reduced your cable bill? Are you doing anything of that kind of sidetrack that might help reduce your overall operating costs and offset some of your shortfall in being able to pay rent? And then if you're a landlord, the same is true. That you need to be ready to talk to your banker or your lender, your mortgage holder, that you can show them specifics that I have applied for the grants. I have reduced my overhead. I'm doing everything I possibly can, but I still need some rent relief. And what we're seeing right now is we're seeing rent relief on the short term of 60 days to a long term of 90 days. Right now, it's that window. And we're seeing it being done in creative ways. They're reducing the rent or forgiving the rent in its entirety and tacking it on, or having it be made up in incremental ways, like at 4 months down the road, they'll start paying 150% of rent if they get zero rent for the first 90 days. Means like that to try to offset it. Any amendments to your lease, the first thing I do is get your lease out. make sure you understand it. But any amendments to the leases we're seeing being written by attorneys. It's very important to keep the integrity of the lease in place and get an attorney engaged to make sure that your compensation is identified correctly and it's not invalidating or in contradiction to the lease in any way. So those are the things that we're seeing, and it's really got to be a team effort.
Thank you. So is John, are you with us?
John Rodenberg is here.
Hi, John. Hey, so I don't have any questions, but I was asking if you had any advice for folks that maybe don't have an established business relationship, how they could find their way into PPP when it opens up again, if you know when it might open up again, or any advice for folks who have gotten their applications in and are waiting, what they can do.
Yes, I do have a suggestion on that. Many small businesses chose not to have a banking relationship. They said, I'll use Square. I don't need a bank. I don't need checks. Some businesses actually pay their rent with a money order each month, which is very costly. If it were to reopen, and at the tail end of the period before it closed, there were 4 non-bank providers that were entertaining loans, and those were Square, Intuit, Cabbage, and I forget the name of the 4th one, but they are non-bank lenders that were getting into that PPP arena, and they had approval to do that. So that's a way that a small business can apply for a loan without having a banking relationship.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, so I don't know your name, sir. I'm sorry.
That's Rick. I've unmuted.
There we
Go
go.
ahead, Rick.
You've unmuted me? Okay, thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
I'm a landlord downtown. I've had these discussions with very recently with Jerome. I talked to John about some different things, and we landlords fit across a whole bunch of barriers. We have, as Jerome said, we have the issue of we still have mortgages to pay, but we need to work with our tenants. But I'm in a unique position because I'm also trying to buy something, and Jerome's involved in that. I also have leases that have just come up, and I'm trying to extend leases. And so I'm doing things like not raising the rates, even though they should be raised, offering extended, someone wants to sign a lease, so I'm extending that at the same rate for a period of time. We've actually done some things to help people beyond just I mean, there's some people that haven't been able to make their payments. We've been doing some things there. There's also some loans that people have said I'm applying for now that please wait and maybe you can help me. And these are on, again, the industrial and commercial buildings, and they're all in Kierra. And so they're all close to this Chamber of Commerce. And so, you know, putting these things on is very, very important. And I think it's important to make sure that you have the voice of some of us that are in the chamber territory. Sometimes we reach to this, and I'm also involved with, I mean, with all of our electeds, the local ones, which happen to be my tenants, but I mean, everybody's involved, and the chamber is in a really prime spot, and what you're doing is really, really meaningful. I mean, Meredith is a friend, and I've suggested that it would be very good for the chamber to host something that is business property owners to help with the development of the downtown, as opposed to talking about these people that are going to come in and build this new wonderful building somewhere and maybe spend their money. But those of us that have our pick in, we want to do whatever we can to help, and we are doing that. But the best forum that I know of now is your organization, and the things that you've been doing in the last few months are incredible in working towards that direction. So I'm very happy to I mean, again, I know a lot of the people that you're using to speak, but it's critical to get those of us that are involved, that have our pick in, that, as you know, I told you about a year ago, I was working on a building thing that I wanted to bring up, but I couldn't. We're still working on that. Only now when we're working on it, it's a different view, because all of a sudden now we've had all of these things that have occurred, been working on something for a year, and all these things have occurred, and now we have to look at it again. I mean, we still want to do it, but it's it's different now. It's a whole different review. And, you know, it can be, you know, office space for a lot of people or little, you know, just a few people, but it means building out spaces, shrinking spaces, making more small spaces. I have a drive-through window that I used years ago for a business I had where you would, like a bank, you would come in and you would exchange pagers and cell phones in that day, or fax, you'd fax. Anyhow, that particular item, which is stainless steel, I'd like to make it available to someone that's providing food because it's got a deep window. There's no, you're not going to be talking. I mean, you can talk to them, but there's no way for anybody to connect hands, and it could go into the side of a building that someone could drive by and make food available. Anyhow, so it's, again, these forums are phenomenal, and keep doing them. I jump in once in a while to see what's going on, but this one, because you've got Meredith, you've got Jerome, you've got John, and some others, I think this one's critical to what I'm doing in spending money in the local community. And I think this is a great voice. So thank you for letting me speak.
Oh. Well, Rick, thank you. You're obviously a former elected, a major stakeholder here, and it's so wonderful to have you here, part of this conversation, and thank you for the kind words. Really appreciate it. All righty, well, just a couple things before we wrap up here. We're right at 4:01. Next week, we will have Helen McGovern. I think Pilot is the CEO of Workforce Central. We are also looking to you to hear who you want to hear from, and to add folks to the advisors panel. I know that Rick Hansen, I think we would certainly like to make that ask of you to participate on this advisors corner as well. So we'll circle back on that. And then don't forget, we're also doing Chip In with the Chamber, which is a great goodwill opportunity for you to donate money. We take that money and we're buying lunches or dinners, gift cards to unsung heroes around the area. It started with some of the frontline healthcare workers. A lot of folks have been giving their attention to them, so we've redirected it. Tomorrow, for instance, it will be the Sumner Bonnie Lake School District, who's preparing 1,500 lunches a day. So for the preppers and the volunteers that are there handing out the lunches, they're all getting their own free breakfast, free lunch tomorrow from Sumner Cafe. So that kind of work we need to hear about. We do keep our ears open, but we do look to you to let us know about those great stories. Thank you to our panelists, Sue, Kierra, Jerome, John, thank you. Electeds, always appreciate you being on. And so, hey, for the good of the order, great to see you all. Stay safe, stay whole. See you next week.